to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Salcho? Here. Mr. Lindemann? Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Bering?
Here, and let the record show that Mr. Lindemann is excused. Item D, approval of minutes. Members of the board, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I approve we accept the minutes.
By Ms. Salchow, second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Gomez. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Salcho?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes. Item E, summary of current events. Ms. Samaniego, Superintendent.
Good evening, Mr. President, governing board members, and members of our staff and community. This week, we are celebrating Read Across America Week with Dr. Seuss Day tomorrow. So, is my mic on? Our elementary schools are doing several different activities, from Cat in the Hat visiting all of our elementary schools today and reading to some of our preschool classrooms, I believe, or just in general? Just in general. And so some of members of our leadership team are also going to be reading to the schools tomorrow. I'm going tomorrow. I don't know about Mrs. Cox Friday. So we are celebrating Dr. Read Across America Week. We also started today was the first day of ACT testing at the high school. And we want to thank all of our administrators and staff who helped coordinate this in curriculum department. ACT it's the test that's going to replace AZM2 for DHS. And I could swear that they maybe think the FBI is watching us as we're doing this test because there's so many parameters around the test and guidelines. And so everybody was on point today. They had a slow start, but hopefully tomorrow will be better. Attendance is still mandatory for the next 3 days at the high school, so students have a late start that are not testing, so we want to reiterate that to students. Classes are still happening, attendance is still mandatory. We also have an update on the aggregate expenditure limit. As you all know, we were all very worried across the state of Arizona, and luckily enough, it did pass with a 2/3 majority vote, and so school districts don't have to have major budget cuts for the remaining of the school year. So what does that mean for DUSD? It means that we can proceed with our expenses as we had planned, from covering all of our salaries, covering all of our expenditures, our 301, money going out to teachers as planned, and not having to cut corners. And so we are very thankful to our Arizona State Legislature and for voting for this and allowing our school districts to keep operating and providing the services that students need. Along those lines, that aggregate expenditure limit vote made sure that we would be okay for the rest of this year. Obviously, this is something that school districts are going to have to address every year because this is an ongoing problem. Unless they change the formula, school districts every year will have to face the same challenge. Are we going to get cuts? Are we going to get cuts to make up for that over expenditure? So this takes care of us for this year, but we don't know what it means for future years to come. And so as far as what bills are also taking place at the legislature, there's a lot of bills out there that are not in the best interest of our public school system and affecting our teachers. And so we're very sensitive to that. There's I'll just mention a few. One is House Bill 2284, and it deals with student promotions. So basically, the main thing here is this allows a teacher to promote a student who does not meet the prescribed criteria. If a student is either an ELL learner or has less than 2 years of English language, if the parent and teacher agree that the promotion is appropriate. So another one is if the English language learner is proficient student and has had fewer than 2 years, and if both parents agree, if in the process of special ed, referral or evaluation placement, special ed has been diagnosed for having a significant reading impairment, dyslexia, of that nature, that disability, a teacher can also, along with the parents, make a decision to promote that child. So it all just falls on more guidelines for student promotions and retentions. We have another one, House Bill 2808. This is big, and this is not going to be in effect or still processing for 27-28 school year. And this deals with school operations and accountability on behalf of ADE for our school systems. And so the main thing here is that beginning in 27-28 school year, it will require any school operated by a school district that has been assigned a letter grade of a D or an F in combination of 2 consecutive years to either initiate a district partnership with a school or a fresh school start. So this means that ADE will work very closely with that district to see what needs to take place from starting over, getting a new school superintendent, for example, is one, subject to review and approval by the SBE, close or consolidate a school. So this is all on school performances and getting very, very detailed with the accountability systems that we now have in place. Still work to be done on this House bill. And House Bill 2278 is now removing the Algebra 2 requirement for high school graduation, I believe. And then another one, which is, it's concerning. It's House Bill 2161. It gives a lot of parental rights on educational records for schools. I'll just give you an example. It gives parents the rights to access all written and electronic medical documents, including those that did not require parental consent. It requires that parents have access to all written and electronic medical or disciplinary records that their teachers were using, so they can request, emails or anything. It can request teacher evaluations and performance. It can request parents access to all employees' electronic records of that school district. There's just a lot of access to parents for anything. So the list is attendance records, test results on school administered exams, grades, extracurricular activities, disciplinary actions, counseling records, psychological records, application for admissions, teacher and counselor evaluations, reports of behavior problems, email accounts. Just a lot of information that parents can have access to, which we gladly share what we can share at this point. So more and more bills are being discussed, passed, reviewed, that ultimately are really affecting our educational public school system and making it more difficult for our teachers. Our teachers are already having so many challenges in the classroom that more of these bills are making it more difficult to become a classroom teacher nowadays.
Do you have any information about the one that I think is very, very frightening? There's a couple of them. One's a House bill, the other one's a Senate bill. But the one that teachers have to post their lesson plans for the month ahead of time online.
Yes.
So that the parents
can
can see what
I-
they're teaching?
And I think this is part of that. I think it's the one that I was mentioning. I didn't read into details of all the access, but that is one of the things in that bill where it's requiring things to be posted in advance for a month. So just a lot more to do for teachers.
It's not just only
Yes.
the work for the teachers.
It's
But, not for knowledge for the parents, and this is what this whole thing's geared around by the legislature. Can you imagine the work that a teacher is going to have to do to get that posted online? And then the other one, I think, Board, you need to know about, and I don't know if it was part of 2021, I'm not sure, but it was one of them, the House bill, that was all encompassing, and that's the one where teachers can't console kids anymore. They don't want teachers to be able to talk to kids about their home life, or if they come home, if they come to school and say, something happened at my house today and I don't feel good, they can't discuss it with them. And that's because of the radicals in the legislature today. So I think the bottom line is, thank you, Anna, very, very much for that
Yeah.
report.
So we are following up closely on those House bills and Senate bills. Early release next Friday, and that is due to the end of the third quarter. And following that is our spring break, March 14th through the 18th. Our schools are closed, but district offices are open.
Okay, the Arizona legislature, and I have to say this, just to hitchhike on that report, is doing everything in the world to destroy public education as we know it. They're strong proponents of charter schools. That's why they're not included in anything. That's why when we had the aggregate limit,
Expenditure.
it didn't include the charter schools. I mean, they were exempt from that. So everything you see there now, and it's a wonder that people are even going into education, public education anymore, because they're doing everything to discourage it. And then they wonder why teachers are leaving in droves, and we can't get teachers, and the salary is abject at best. And so it's good that you gave that report so that you can see how the people that are going to be the recipients of this are going to be our teachers. And we're having to take substitutes now, and they even have a certificate for a substitute instead of being an emergency. Anybody can get a substitute regular certificate now, and I don't know what you're doing about that to adjust the salary, but anyway, those are some of the things that are coming out of that legislature, and it's frightening, to be honest with you, and what it's going to do to public education. So anyway, Anna, thanks for that. And we'll move on to governing board members. Do you have any reports?
Go ahead.
No, I don't.
Dr. Gomez, do you?
Well, I was just going to ask a question for my information. The last board meeting that we had, I think it was a special one, and Cesar gave me a ride home. And there was, all the students were out at the high school.
I saw that.
Remember? And what was that about?
Last board
I think
meeting?
it was a fire drill.
I think it was a fire drill last week.
Was it a fire drill? Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, last week when we had the.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's good. I just was wondering. I said, oh
Mrs.
my God.
Rodriguez, why were all of your students out of the?
Yeah, no, I thought
Fire
maybe
drill?
there was
Okay.
something
I think it was a
serious,
fire
you
drill.
know?
They were at the softball field and crossing the street. And,
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Was that it, members of the
Yeah,
board?
that's it.
Mr. Ramos, do you have anything?
No.
School student activity report, Camila.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Samaniego, and members of the public. The activity report at Douglas High School and DUSD schools for the month of March is as follows. We've got great news to share about our students at DHS. Douglas High School's very own Valeria Moreno, class of 2023, has been elected as one of the 3 Arizona State Student Council presidents for next year. Valeria was voted by student council members all across the state and will represent the Arizona Association of Student Councils as an executive board member next year. In our district, state testing at all DUSD schools will be throughout the month of March. At Douglas High School, ACT state testing is March 1st through the 3rd. Ted James Invitational is on March 5th, spring break is on March 14th through the 18th, and HOSA state conferences are March 30th through April 1st. At Ray Moraine, state testing is continuing this week, as well as our QSP testing. After-school programs are up and running once again, offering homework club, readers theater, art, girls basketball, and boys soccer. At Huber, the spring dance will be held on March 9th at 5 p.m. This dance will be held outside. Clausen is celebrating the love of reading and Dr. Seuss Week with dress-up days and volunteer readers. We would like to thank Douglas Fire, Douglas PD, Douglas China Poblana, Cat in the Hat, Mr. Duarte, Erica Tapia, DHS Cheer, Cochise College Boys Basketball Team, City of Douglas Library, BB Dance, U.S. Customs and U.S. Border Patrol, Mrs. Samaniego and Mrs. Cox, and all of our parents and staff who took time to come and read to our Panthers. We are participating in American Heart Association Kids Heart Challenge with the student who raises the most money getting to slime Mrs. Moen. After-school program is underway with folklorico, cheer, STEM, athletics, and art. Our art students created Black History Month murals that are showcased around the school. Go Team Therapy Dogs will be making a visit on March 11th. Be Kind Crew will be visiting on March 24th for a live in-person performance. At Stevenson, fundraisers for Brian Chacon's family will be held on February 15th. Were held on February 15th, and $1,100 were raised. Parent Liaison Esperanza Romero 2022 Golden Apple Award honoree. Dr. Seuss Spirit Days are February 28th through March 4th. Crazy Hat Day Parade is March 1st at 1:50 p.m. The Spring Book Fair will be March 7th through the 11th, and then there is spring break. At Joe Carlson, we are celebrating Dr. Seuss and Read Across America Day this week with special guest readers Mrs. Cox, Jesus Duarte, and Douglas librarian Diana Manquero. Spirit Days, an art contest, student trivia, special prizes, and an interactive exhibit for students. Mexican-American children's book author and illustrator Yuyi Morales will visit Joe Carlson on Thursday, March 10th to read her new book, Bright Star. The Kids Heart Challenge continues with Wear Red Days and will wrap up with the fitness activities on March 10th and 11th. Report cards will be sent home March 23rd through the 25th. Awards Assembly for Quarter 3 will be on March 31st. Our after school is underway, offering art, physical education, culinary, and technology. PTSO's Penny Drive will continue through March 11th. PTSO will be taking pictures with the Easter Bunny on March 24th, and PTSO had a benefit fundraiser for the Chacon family last week. At Ferris, the Kids Heart Challenge, where the top two fundraising students, first place Ruby de la Vega is principal for a day, and second place Luisiana Gagiola is administrative assistant for a day. The top fundraising classrooms are first place Mrs. Salazar, second grade, second place Mrs. Hernandez, first grade, and third place Mrs. Castillo, third grade. We are celebrating Dr. Seuss this week with different dress-up days. Monday is Fox and Sock, Tuesday is Grinch Day, Wednesday is Cat in the Hat Day, Thursday is Thing 1 and Thing 2 Twin Day, Friday is Pajama Day and Crazy Hat Parade Day. During Dr. Seuss Week, we will have parents and guardians volunteering to read to our students. The Scholastic Book Fair is scheduled for March 21st through the 25th. Thank you.
Camille, in a minute, Ms. Samaniego is going to address the mask mandate, and she's going to discuss about what the options are and probably make a recommendation to the board in the near future. Just generally speaking, not your own personal opinion, but generally speaking, what you hear at the high school, how do the students feel about wearing the masks now? Given all of the things that are going on with the CDC and everything, how do they feel about wearing the mask now?
Well, I think a good percentage of them are okay with still wearing them, but I do hear often that when I announce in the announcements that we still do have a mask mandate, some of them complain. But I think the big majority is okay with continuing to wear masks.
Okay, thank you. Year-to-date budget report, Mr. Soto.
Good afternoon, Board President, Board members. This is my monthly report for the month of February. Again, there's still some stuff that needs to be encumbered, but now knowing that we get to spend the whole amount of money, then we'll find a good way to spend it. Any specific questions you have about the report?
Well, I have a question because Mr. Brain was talking about the legislature and stuff like that. Okay, so when they voted, they just voted to do it for this year?
Correct.
It's not a permanent thing?
No.
Okay.
No. Again, there's a lot of unknowns at this point. One of the things that they have talked about is to avoid this situation, maybe just implement a 16% cut to all budgets to all school districts and avoid this whole thing. But again, it's shorting us. For this year, it would have been $4.2 million that we would have to cut if this wouldn't pass. This is something that needs to be addressed at the legislature still, and it's probably going to have to be on a year-to-year basis because we're going to still continue having this issue. Unless, like Mrs. Samaniego said, they change the formula. The formula has been implemented and hasn't changed since 1980. So again, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be updated. But yeah, at this point, all school districts get to spend whatever was allocated to them for this school year. But then again, not knowing what's going to happen next year, of course, a lot of districts are keeping some of that money and have it for carryover, just in case they need it for next year again. So I'll keep you updated on what's the plan for DUSD.
Yeah, since the doctor asked, why don't you explain why it took so long for the legislature to act and what all the excuses they were given was about the 208 monies? That's important, so the board knows.
It is important, but to me, it's just not very well. Let me just say that it's just politics as always, and like Board President Borain said, it's scary. But some of the legislatures were waiting to another judge to rule on Proposition 208, which is taxing the rich to hire for education or whatever. But I don't believe that all that money was going to go to education anyway. So those two things, the Aggregate and the Prop 208, are two separate different things that has nothing to do with each other. But again, some of those excuses were, well, I'm not going to vote on the Aggregate until I hear what the judge is going to say about Prop 208, which again has nothing to do with education.
Well, no, it did. It did, because it had to do with whether or not it was part of the limit or not, the 208 money.
Right. But
So,
since it hasn't been approved, yeah.
and that's why, that's why the board needs to, logistically how they were working that is that they waited and waited and they still didn't get unanimity in that.
No.
They still had a lot of dissenters on that.
Correct.
So,
correct. And still, the judge hasn't ruled on 208 at this point, and I believe they're set to do that next week. But then again, it's politics as usual, and again, just against.
But that 208, that was voted on by the people.
Correct. But now, these senators or legislators want this judge to rule that unconstitutional and get away with it. That's what they're trying to do at this point.
And whether that money went to the limit also, because if it was extracted from the limit, then there couldn't have been a problem, maybe.
Right.
But that's what the judge ruling on. All right, thank you very much for the report. Did you have anything, Michelle?
No, just going along with that, I saw on the news where a legislator made the comment that they have spent enough money on education, but we're still, what are we still 49th out of 50
48, 40
states?
yeah. In educational funding.
In
yes.
educational funding.
Correct.
Okay, we could have a whole study session on the legislature.
We could stay here till midnight.
We don't want to really get into that. All right, do we have anybody who wants to address the board? Yes, sir. That's right, Mr. Duarte. You want to do it on the item?
Yes, sir.
Do you have anybody that wants to address the board at all? Just directly address the board? All right. So then we move to 2A.
We need
Yeah.
reports.
I'm sorry, we still have, I don't want to minimize you ever, I'm sorry.
I was like, it's okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be quick.
The speaker.
So our enrollment is currently at 3,870. Last year at this time, it was 3,726. So we have a few more students than last year. We will be having a job fair next Wednesday here at the district office from 1:30 to 5. And so we will send out more information on that. All positions have been posted. As for our COVID numbers, for last week, we had 4 staff members reported and 30 students. So the total for February, we had 18 staff members and 111 students who tested positive. And so we are seeing a huge decrease in the number of cases. So that's a good thing.
Members of the board, any questions or comments regarding that report? Ms. Salchow?
Denise, do you know how many students have had COVID since the beginning of the school? Do we have that number available?
I have it, but I'll have to add them all up.
That's
but I'll
okay.
give it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Item 2A, approval of the following consent agenda items, payroll and expenditure vouchers 1 through 3. Entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I move that we approve the vouchers as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Salchow. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Roll call.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item 3, discussion information on Douglas Unified School District number 27 mask mandate. Ms. Samaniego.
Do you want to let Mr. Duarte speak on that
No,
now? Or you okay, all
yeah,
right.
no, you go ahead
Okay.
first.
As you all know, we've had the mask mandate for quite some time. We had returned to the school district with an optional mask mandate, and that allowed parents and children and staff to choose to wear a mask, and then things got a little bit more complicated, and we voted for a new mask mandate. I think it's time we revisit the idea of the mask. I know I put it today as a discussion information so that I could provide you information and kind of give you where I'm headed. I want to take a look and continue monitoring this week and next week what our numbers are looking like, and just information coming from our health department, CDC. Many institutions, whether some are educational, some are non-educational, government facilities are moving in that direction, and even CDC is looking at this more of as a holistic approach. And a lot of businesses, institutions are going with an optional mask, and I think mandate, and that allows for parent choice, staff choice. I think our numbers are looking pretty good, so I want to monitor for the next couple days. The CDC just still did recommend that every county look at their transmission levels and kind of determine it based on that. As of the 25th, Cochise County was still high, considered high. And I know my colleagues around Cochise County school districts are also looking at the mask mandates and probably going optional. If not, some of them have already made that decision. So I want to come back and monitor it within 2 weeks, because my goal is that if I see things are looking pleasantly well for us, that I would come back to the board for a special quick meeting right before spring break, right before the kids return from spring break, and my recommendation would go to be optional after once the kids return from spring break.
Would that be for the staff as well?
The staff and students, yes. And I think whoever wants to still continue using it, and they're very welcome to. The weather's getting a lot warmer now, and there's a lot more. I think the number of people in our community, whether it's students or adults that have been vaccinated, I think people that have wanted to get vaccinated have been vaccinated, and those that simply aren't going to, are not going to, and we don't have a vaccine mandate. So I think things are going in the right direction, and so that would be my recommendation coming forth in a couple weeks. I took a survey from my principals, and obviously some principals feel, oh, well, we're almost at the end of the third quarter. Why don't we just finish this way? Why change now? But I think we just got to consider the kids have been wearing masks, and I will tell you that it is difficult when you're visiting classrooms and trying to get students engaged. And let's say you ask one student to read in one corner and another one student to repeat what that child said. It is tough to hear them, when you're wearing masks. But it has been a safety precaution, and I think we did it for as long as we needed to. And so I will monitor it in the next 2 weeks and probably ask for a special meeting before the kids come back.
You mentioned principals. Do you have a current feeling or any input from teachers as to how they feel about?
No, and I don't have it from teachers. I took it from principals, but I can definitely take a survey prior to them going out for spring break and see how the teachers feel. I know in general, teachers that have reached out to me, a few, not a handful, a few have emailed and said, can we just get rid of masks? We're tired, we can't hear our kids. We can't see their expressions. And then obviously some community members have reached out. So I can definitely take a survey to get more of a clear picture of how teachers feel.
I was thinking more on the other end of the continuum, where you have teachers that are fearful of coming to school. So I don't know. That might be important for us to know.
Okay.
Members of the board.
I guess my question would be, Anna, is that, excuse me, Mrs. Samaniego. So, and it's usually in elementary school, when parents have a request, like if they have to, if a student is ill and can't play on the playground, or they have to take some medication and it goes to the nurse. It falls on the adults to kind of police that with the children. Will that fall on our teachers? If a parent says, I want my child to wear a mask every day, and that child doesn't wear a mask and then goes home, I'm just concerned about the responsibility that our teachers might have to take, or will they? I mean, how would that be handled?
And I obviously I can't answer for every teacher and how it was handled at every school, but I will tell you that the time that we did, for the short time that we did have it optional, that's exactly what was happening. And teachers, if parents had a strong opposition to the child not wearing it, I think they were either emailing, communicating with their teacher or the principal and saying, please, if you see my child not wear a mask, can you please just remind them? I don't think it became an issue. At least I didn't hear from any principal or any teacher saying, God, this parent just is driving me nuts. And I have one more thing to worry about. Does it fall on the teacher if the parent is insistent or maybe sends some kind of written information or email or just a phone call? But I think for the most part, parents that wanted their kids to wear it, those kids did wear it. And if they took it off, in the classroom was short periods, but I don't have a response for every teacher. Does it fall on the teacher if the parent is insistent? Possibly so.
Dr. Ed?
One of the things that, no one uses the word concern, but that I want to make sure that those that want to wear a mask, to wear it properly. And I was in the medical office, and they had a little sign, and I took a picture, and it shows the don'ts and the do's. And I was going to send it to them, but I never did. But the thing of it is that if the children are going to wear a mask, then, and I hate to say the teachers should watch, but maybe it's the aid, that the kids are wearing the mask properly, if they're going to wear them. I mean, if it's going to be optional, well, then there's no problem. But if you have a parent that says, I want my child to wear a mask, then you teach him or her how to wear the mask properly.
And it does become tricky. Not every teacher has an instructional aid in the classroom to assist them with those things, but I think it can be as, little Johnny has to take his medication. He's not showing up to the nurse every day to take his medication. What happens is the nurse then calls the parent and says, we call him out, he doesn't come, we call him out again, we're just letting you know as a parent, he's not abiding by what he needs to do as a student. So I think, Dr. Ed, even now, some students and teachers that are here, you could prove me wrong, but when you're teaching and you have a class of 30 kids or 28 kids, some of the kids will pull it down, because they wouldn't want to breathe, or they don't like to cover their noses. So teachers are doing their teaching, and so sometimes they may miss those kids that are not properly wearing it well. But we do, I believe, have posters. Some of the schools, I think most of the schools, all of our schools have posters of the right way and wrong way to wear it, like what you see in every business nowadays.
Well,
So-
but I think I misspoke. Because I don't want that to be a responsibility of the teachers. I guess what I'm doing is that the parents have to take responsibility. Just like you say, if the child has to take medication, well, the parent has to make sure that he understands that he's going to take medication. And if they want him to wear a mask,
They can
make sure that you wear it properly. And it's their instruction,
Yes, I agree.
and they're taking care of the child by saying, we want you to wear a mask, this is the way you wear it. And don't take it off.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, any further discussion by the board, administration? Mr. Rugg-
I'll
Oh,
just say
excuse me.
that I know some constituents have reached out to some of you, and thank you for passing that information on to me. So I know it's come from also constituents just asking, are we going to get rid of this mask mandate now, or is it going to be optional? And so I know it's also a community concern, at least for some.
Right. Can I make one more comment?
Absolutely.
Okay, but see, this is the whole thing about this CDC and all this stuff. is you're getting so many mixed messages. Did you see where the New York City is going to abolish a mask mandate?
They did, huh?
Who knows how many kids they have in the school system?
Yeah.
You know, and so, and then you have others that say, no, we're going to wear masks. You know, where's the information coming from? That's
Yeah.
that's the sad part.
Yeah, so I think that's what it says here. This CDC is now taking a holistic approach that evaluates new infections and hospitalizations, as well as ICU bed occupancy rates, as well as mask mandate recommendations.
Okay, members of the board, Mr. Ramos, did you have any questions or comments? I guess
Mr.
not.
Ramos?
Okay, Mr. Duarte, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, board members, Mrs. Samaniego. I'm Jesus Duarte. I'm a parent and a community member here of a student, and I'm here to talk. I want to apply Mrs. Samaniego for trying to move these things, the mask, to be more optional. Right now, I came in here, I'm on cloud 9 right now. I visited all 5 elementary schools today. I dressed up as a cat in the hat. I was reading to the kids. I was watching, and I think we're bringing back some normalcy to them. Seeing people visit their schools. You know, police departments was there. Fire department was there. I'm loving that. I'm love seeing the kids, the excitement. I've had people ask me, why do I do it? Why do I still step up? Why do I care so much about it? You know, it's about the kids. It's about my kiddos. You know, I work with the Douglas, the Cochise County Youth Health Coalition, and I teach them to speak up for what they need. You know, we pass 2 city ordinances. When do you see high school kids pass one to make one of the parks tobacco-free, to raise the legal age to buy tobacco products, go from 18 to 21 with the opposition? You know, I've been involved, and I'm doing it for the kids. What do I gain? I go everywhere without the mask, so that's fine. We're looking at a lot of depression still with our kids, anxiety, isolation, you know, and our kids are looking to us to alleviate those fears that they have. None of us know how to deal with it, but I think we got to help them out to deal with those fears and really look at all the data out there, especially so that we can help them cope. We're losing them. I work in tobacco prevention and do with a lot of other drugs because nothing is in a silo. And we're talking about the electronic cigarettes, especially the disposable ones. In 2019, 2.5% of high school students had used a disposable electronic cigarette within the last 30 days. 2021, it's up to 55%. They're finding self-medication. They're trying to ease their anxiety. They're trying to alleviate all those things. And it's not stopping at nicotine and tobacco. It's going to cannabis, marijuana, we know fentanyl. It's everything like that. And we need to work with our kids, lower their anxiety, and help them out with all this. And I know it brings out a lot of anxiety from the kids that I talk to when I'm coaching them in baseball, when the youth coalition come in. They are telling me that they're tired of it. Okay. Last thing, Dr. Lena Wen, she's from the George Washington School of Public Health, and she's a contributing medical analyst for CNN. In February of 2008, she put out, circumstances have changed. Cases are falling rapidly. Vaccines are available for 5+. One-way masking protects the wearer. That's why mask requirements were the right policy before, and why now masking can move from a government-imposed mandate to an individual decision. I hope that the parents take that and say, you know what, if I want you to wear it, you're going to wear it. And if we give them the choice not to, that we continue with that. It really shouldn't fall on our teachers with that. We as parents must step up and tell our kids what we expect from them. If we expect them to walk into a room and say good morning, say please, say thank you, we should also tell them what we expect when it comes to the mask mandate. I appreciate the way we're moving, Mrs. Samaniego. Thank you for that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rote. You want to capsulize where we're going with this just quickly before we get off?
Yes, so I will watch our trends here as far as our district is concerned with positive cases, our numbers, continue to monitor the recommendations coming by our county health department, CDC, and we will also send out a survey. I'll do it for both parents and staff, and once I have that information, and if everything looks good, I will be making a recommendation to, after returning from spring break, that the mask would be optional.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, anything else on that before we go on? Item C, discussion action on the approval of, B. Discussion action on the approval of certified retirements. Ms. Samaniego.
And that is as presented, and notice that these retirements are for the end of 2023. We have two longtime teachers and staff, Hector Moreno, Joe Carlson teacher, and Richard Acosta, right now one of our counselors, and the retirements are for 2023.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
I move we approve the certified retirements.
Second?
Second.
By Dr. Gomez. Any discussion? Not to minimize Hector Moreno, but that Richard Acosta is going to be a major loss to the district. He's been around a long time. It's going to take a lot of knowledge and information and expertise with him.
Yes.
Roll call.
Ms. Selcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item C, discussion action on the approval of volunteer. Ms. Samaniego.
Yeah, as presented, and this is a volunteer for baseball, and former DHS student, former DHS player himself, lots of years of experience.
Okay, members of the board, you saw the letter there with his background and so on. Any questions? Entertain a motion to do that.
I move we accept Fernando Rojas as a volunteer.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Selcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes. Item D, discussion action on the approval of student tutors. Ms. Samaniego.
Yes. As presented, and these are Cochise College students that will be tutoring reading and writing at Clausen and Ferris Elementary, and of course these are just not, it's not a paid DUSD position, so I want to clarify that.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Go ahead, Ed.
I make a motion to approve the list of student tutors for reading and writing at Clausen and Ferris.
Is there a second?
I second.
Discussion?
Mr. President?
Yes. Mr. Ramos.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, why we're seeing only Clausen School where they're going to be used?
Denise, do you have
Is
that?
there a reason just for Clausen?
That was the list. Good afternoon, Mr. Ramos. That was the list that Cochise College provided. And so I'm not exactly sure if the students themselves chose that site or the Cochise College teacher did.
Oh, okay.
Thank
you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramos. What kind of a background, do you do any background on those
They have to go
volunteers?
through the whole volunteer.
The customary, you do the full?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, good. Do we have a motion on the floor?
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Ms. Selcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item E, discussion action on the approval of donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27. Ms. Samaniego.
Okay. As presented, we have 3 donations. One, $660 going to DHS Baseball from Infinite Power Energy Solutions. Another one of $1,553.50 from Mr. Kevin Smith to DHS Wrestling. And another one estimated value of $1,000 batting cage to DHS Baseballs. So as presented.
Is the first one Power Energy Solutions, are they a vendor?
No.
No? Entertain a motion to approve?
Go ahead. Okay, I make a motion to approve the donations as presented.
Is there a second?
I second.
You see why it's convenient to have Mr. Lindeman here?
Yes, it is. We're spoiled.
Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes. Item F, discussion action on the approval of certified staff contract renewals for 2022-23 school year. And by the way, as always, we always send a note of gratitude to those people, right? The people that donated. Those are quite generous donations there. Ms. Samaniego.
This is as presented, and you have a list of certified staff. This includes all of our teachers and counselors that we are recommending for a contract renewal for 22-23 school year. And this is all based on their evaluations and principal recommendations. Obviously, everybody that's on this list is being recommended by them. What this means, what I'm doing now is just bringing the list of contract renewals for you. There is yet information to be, some work to be done on our end as far as what salary proposal or raises we can have at a later date. So the list, what you're approving right now, is just the names of our staff that is going to be getting the contract. I discussed this with DEA and our school administrators, and not knowing yet what if there's going to be an increase in salary, which we hope to do for next year. Mr. Soto has a meeting coming up this week or
Tomorrow.
Regarding any increase on the student ADM funding, and so a lot of our budget is based on student enrollment. So I will come back at a very short, hopefully by end of this month or beginning April, with a recommended salary increase for teachers, and that way we issue the contract at that time.
Just for clarity, you're going to issue those contracts
I'm not going
as soon as possible, right?
Yes, we
And
want
then
to.
the clock's going to start running, right?
No, okay, so we're not, so what you're doing right now is just approving the list of certified staff members that will be getting a contract. We're not adding no amount to it. We're not going to be issuing contracts right now because I got some input from our staff, our DEA. So all we're doing is, this is a list of teachers who I'm recommending to get a contract for next year. We won't issue contracts until we have a definite salary increase amount so that I can bring to the board. As soon as Mr. Soto has that information, I will probably have a special meeting to determine we are able to do a 2% increase based on everybody's salary, and at that point we will issue contracts.
Okay, that answers clearly the question. All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I move we approve the certified staff contract renewals for the 2022-2023 school year.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Gomez, any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item G, discussion action on the approval of emergency procurement purchases related to COVID-19. Mr. Soto.
Again, like every month, we have to do procurement, purchasing stuff for PPE equipment and all that. So we get to use the emergency procurement in a way that we don't have to go through the whole process. Sometimes items are not available right away, or they go away fast. So it's just a few purchases that we did on that method.
There isn't a sole source in there. They're just okay. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the emergency procurement purchase related to COVID-19.
Is there a second?
I second.
Ms. Salchow, roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item H, discussion action on the approval of the 2022-23 Douglas Unified School District number 27 school calendar. Ms. Samaniego.
This was presented by Mrs. Trevino, our director of CFPD, and she oversaw the, I was going to say the salary committee, but that's another committee, the calendar committee. And this is the proposal. All the details are in your background information. We're still staying within our required 183 teacher workdays, 180 instructional days. There was 2 days extra in the calendar that we always have to plug in as non-school days, because then the teachers go over their 183 working days. And so early release days stay on a Wednesday, as we have this year. And you will see that the only big change here is that our November break has been, for the last few years, a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for school students and school staff. The 2 extra days that we've had to plug in somewhere along in the calendar, from giving a Monday off or a Friday off or another Wednesday or a Tuesday off somewhere, the committee's recommendation was to add that to that Monday and Tuesday of the Thanksgiving break week. And this is something that a lot of the districts in Cochise County ended up doing because of the lack of students attending Monday and Tuesday of that Thanksgiving week. So that's the only major change. Other than that, it stays the same.
The committee were there administrators, building level administrators participated in that?
Mrs. Heraldina, you would have that response.
Who did that?
Mrs. Trevino. Mrs. Trevino, do you want to come up here and say how many, more or less, who was in? There was representatives as far as classified, certified.
Well, she's coming up there. You just
She's tired from doing ACT
come on.
testing today.
You mentioned classified.
Valenzuela, you might have all the list of committee members. Really, I don't remember.
Before you start, though, you mentioned classified. When you alter the calendar like that, and you add more holidays, and God, you got 3 months in a row there where you got a lot of time off. What does that do to payroll to classified?
So we did discuss this, and any time that you have any change in a calendar, you always consider the classified staff. So what it does to them, for example, I'm going to select the December 2 week. If you notice, December has a Monday through a Friday full 2 week break. This past year, it was a Wednesday. We started on a Wednesday, and students returned on a Thursday. And so in that pay period, for example, when classified staff returns, they're going to see 5 days on that first paycheck when they return, and then the next pay period they're going to see, or 3 days on the first pay period and 5 days on the next pay period. So instead of having 5 days like they did this year and another 5 days in the next pay period. So how it changes is the number of days that are included in one pay period versus the number of pay period that will be included in the next pay period, if that makes any sense. Heraldina?
Well, wait a minute. But that affects their income, and especially around the holidays. So what you're saying is, and then first of all, we're going to ask Heraldina where you got those 2 extra days specifically to put on the November break. They're going to experience a lesser check. The classified is going to get lesser amount of money on that one check right around the holidays, correct?
And they do so already in different during, for example, in October when we have the full week off in October, classified staff already has to look at less days because they don't get paid when they don't work, right? We've always experienced this issue at the very start of the school year. If you recall, when the county changed the way they do the pay week, the payroll week, our payroll weeks now starts on Thursday. And so Thursday, Friday, our IAs or support staff that is not 12-month would only work one more day on the pay period before. So they would go through the whole month of August pretty much, and some of September without pay. And that just happens because of the way the county does their pay. So we experience that. We've dealt with it year after year during the month of August and during any time that there is a break. For this time around, because you are adding 2 extra days, okay, to that November week, then the classified staff in that November break, I think is gonna have 3 days of pay period one. In pay period, that includes the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Bianca, do you remember? Because you're in that committee.
I don't remember exactly, but it was the 2 days were going to be taken off of one pay cycle. So that one pay cycle prior to the spring break would have, the Thanksgiving break would have 2 less days in it. It's not a whole loss of a week, it's a loss of 2 days.
Members of the board, the reason I bring that up is if classified doesn't work, they don't get paid. And, of course, but they'll eventually get the money. But the
Yes.
fact is that they don't get it at that time, and I personally have heard from them over the issue.
Of the
that
beginning
she's-
of the year.
That hurts those people. And of course, we're more about, of course, then to me, the instruction, with 3 months in a row there where you have all that time off. But we have to always consider the well-being of our salaried employees. And I really hurt for them if they don't. They hurt when they don't get paid, and that's right. So I don't know, but Geraldina, go ahead and answer the first question: is who was on the committee?
Okay, so we met multiple times because there were originally 2 other calendars included, and then we went back to the table as well because of disagreements. So we came back to the table, so the people who were on there were representation from every school, so it was pretty much a certified teacher. We had some classified from payroll, and we had, Mrs. Valenzuela and I and Mrs. Cox were pretty much facilitating. And there were several proposals, and then they would go off to their sites and share at their site level as to, they had a survey, and then everyone would vote on the selection of which calendar would be most appropriate. And so those were the results, and that's the recommendation based on the results.
Were there any parents on that committee?
No.
It's me.
Well, Alma
I
serves
can
as
as
a
a
parent.
parent.
Were you on? Were you?
She
were you
serves
on?
as a parent, that's right.
Do you still have children in school?
Yes.
Members of the board, do you have any questions regarding that calendar? As long as she's a chairperson of the committee.
I sat on that committee before, and so I know what they have to go through to come up with these dates. I'm really appreciative of the time they spent. But there is that question about our classified people. But otherwise, it looks like a standard calendar.
Dr. Ed?
No.
Where did you get the 2 extra days? And then if you took them from, of course, we know that the mandates are going to be met.
Yes.
All the classified are going to work all the days they get paid for contractually, and that the students are going to have the state mandated days in the classroom. Where did those 2 days come from that you added on the other end? Where did you take them off of? You had to get them someplace.
I was actually the person who recommended.
Come on up. Come on up.
They moved the start date to Wednesday.
Yeah.
Not to put Ms. Trevino on the spot, but I was the member of.
She's
the
our
committee.
mathematician
I
on the
recommended
team.
the days. I recommended the days off. And so where they came from is we usually started school on a Thursday with students at the beginning of the year. So instead, we moved that to a Wednesday where teachers reported on Monday. Monday and Tuesday were teacher work days instead of doing a Tuesday, Wednesday as teacher work days. So one of them is at the beginning of the year. And then because when we have fall break falls it coincides with Columbus Day. So that's already a holiday. So when we take fall break, we're only taking 4 days. So there's been 1 day that we've always kind of put here and there, and we just recently had it on February 7th, that extra day where the teachers and the employees opt to where that day is going to go. And we vote on it, and we make a decision on that. And so we took that day plus the day from the beginning of the year and put those in for the 2 days of the Thanksgiving break. So one was at the beginning of the school year, and the other one was the extra floating day that has been in numerous locations. September 16th.
So there might be a long stretch on the other end where there isn't going to be any time off, right?
And sometimes there is, it depends, especially the spring holiday, the Easter holiday. Sometimes when that's in March, we'll go 8 weeks without a day off. So in previous years, we've put that extra day in that location to kind of offset things. But when we sent this out, we sent this survey out at every site to all employees, classified and certified. So everybody had an opportunity to give their input to their site representative, whether they were a classified or a certified employee.
Did you have much feedback from our classified personnel regarding this?
At Douglas High School, I can speak because those are the results that I saw. Out of all the people who responded, the majority, over 75%, chose this calendar. So.
Okay, you know, and of course, that is a major consideration, because I don't have to tell you, especially these times are very difficult.
yeah.
And when these people, they're not making that much money anyway, in spite of all of the efforts that we try every year, but we're at the mercy of the state. But the only thing that I would really be concerned about is, I'm concerned about all of that time off in those 3 months. I don't know how many days that is. That's 5.
So it's the week of October, and then the week of November, and before it was 3 days. So currently this year, we had 3 days off in November, so when you add those 2 additional days, that's where you have 2 more days already from what the teachers and the students have off. And then obviously the December break is always a 2-week break. So it makes it seem like, oh gosh, we have a lot of time off, when
Yeah.
it's actually those 2 added days to the.
No, of course you do make
Yes,
up the time.
but
I mean,
it's
that's
the- yeah.
But it's just that the continuity is not
And-
there of instruction time. I mean, that's a lot of time off.
And I will say that I joined the committee towards the end, because the first calendar that they had proposed to me, I had some concerns, and so that's when we went back to the drawing board, and I said, okay, are we thinking of this? The first proposal was a 2-week October break and a 2-week March break. If you recall, that would have been like an intersession, a year-round calendar. And so from my experience, when DUSD had a year-round calendar, they tried it for 1 year and then it never happened again. And so I said, was the whole intention to have a 2-week for intercession purposes, or was it just to have 2 weeks off? Because if we're going to have 2 weeks off in October, and 2 weeks in spring break, then we're having intercession, and we're having to get teachers to work intercession and tutor for kids. So that's when the committee went back. But when I joined the committee, we looked at attendance data on that Monday and Tuesday of before Thanksgiving break. We looked at the attendance on that week of when the school lets out for Christmas break. We looked at the attendance when we get back on Thursday and Friday after that January, after the 2-week Christmas break. And every single school had really bad attendance on those days. And so that's why the committee decided, let's do a 2-week Monday through Friday Christmas break instead of a Wednesday through a Wednesday. And see how that attendance, kids are still missing. They're figuring, oh, we have 2 more days of school. I'll take 2 more days and I won't go to school. So we looked at attendance. We looked at the classified payroll. We had a lot of discussion, because I told them that's a concern of mine. And we looked at all the mandates, and this was, after several discussions, this was what the committee and the staff voted to propose to me.
And it was unanimous at
Yes.
every site, and also the district office. So it went out to all 8 sites, plus there was a survey that Alma sent out to the district office employees, and all 9 locations, this was the majority vote.
Well, you guys are the professionals. You're the ones, the question I'm raising about the instruction, you're the ones that know. You're with them day in and day out, and you know how the sequence goes and everything that's associated with it.
And my comment to that, Mr. Burain, would be that there is discontinuity in instruction, but at least when I can plan for the discontinuity versus when it's 2 days that kids are scheduled to be there, and when half of my students show up, then I'm having to adjust my next week's lesson plan, because I know that I can't continue on when even a third of my students are absent. So at least I can plan for that discontinuity. I can create some sort of closure that occurs before that, instead of thinking I have 2 days that week of Thanksgiving, and then come to find out that when the students show up, more than a third of them are gone. And so then I have to plan and adjust during my holiday. So, I mean, I understand that concern, but we as instructors and as teachers can make that adjustment in the learning to make sure that the retention of the information is there.
Well, it's good that they involved you to that extent. And like I said, if you feel, and that was a good explanation, if you feel that as a professional that's in that classroom every day, responsible for the learning, that this is going to be okay, then I guess that's fine. The other concern is, again, those people are going to be without that pay. And people, they're hurting right now. And then when you take that, that's considerable. When you get a menial check like that, and then you take those 3 days off, that's a lot of money to them. Geraldina, anything else you want to add?
Thank you, Mrs. Hernandez.
Well, no, thank you for all the work you did and everything, but, there's always questions, right? Okay, thank you. Members of the board, any more discussion regarding that?
No, just thank you to the committee and to Mr. Villa for the time they put into this.
Dr. Gomez?
I just have a question because you're talking about classified. So classified are paid, but they're not paid when they don't work. So what happened? Tell me about holidays.
They only, they go ahead.
They only get a few mandated holidays. Like, for instance, we have, I believe, an IA, instead of, they work 187 days because there's this, I believe there's either 7 holidays in the year. So those are mandated and they get paid those holidays.
Like, for example, though, like Thanksgiving Day, do they get paid for that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's a paid holiday.
Okay, so
For the
there are
24th and 25th.
some
No,
things
25th.
that the classified do get where we would say, okay, well, there's all these things in yellow, they're not going to get paid. Well, but they do get paid in some instances
Yes.
for the holidays.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff
for
like
example,
that.
if you're looking at that November week,
Yes.
Dr. Ed, they get paid that 24th and 25th because that is a paid holiday that they get already. So usually during our 3 days off right now for this calendar, they wouldn't get paid the Wednesday that they weren't working on when we had.
Well,
yeah.
this year.
Yes, but
Right.
they got paid Thursday and Friday.
But next year, next school year, they're not going to get paid for the 21, 22,
and
23.
20 and 23.
Okay.
Maybe
So
it-
in total, they do get paid, they are still gonna get paid, and working their 187 days.
Correct.
And get all the paid holidays that are already embedded into the calendar. What will happen on our end, and this is a discussion we had in the committee, is that payroll will have, along with Mrs. Cox, some meetings with the classified staff ahead of time before even wage notices go out, explaining in detail the calendars and breaking down in this pay period during this break, this is how your pay is going to be affected. So they're going to have those meetings in person or virtually to get this information out ahead of time.
Okay.
What it does, Doctor, it just affects the pay cycle.
Yes, the pay
Yes.
cycle.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll entertain a motion to do whatever the board wants to do with that.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I move we accept the calendar as presented in 3H for the 2022-2023 school year.
So you're moving to approve.
I move to approve.
A second.
Is there any further discussion? I want to thank the committee. This is always an annual dilemma because of everything that's happening. So thank you very much. And a good explanation, Bianca. I appreciate that. I meant to ask you, did you get a deer while you were out this season? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Roll call.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bray?
Yes. Request for future agenda items, announcements.
Just a reminder, spring break, March 14th through the 18th, and students, ACT testing at the high school is mandatory, and the rest of the students, you need to show up at 1 p.m. for the rest of your classes for mandatory instruction. And next regular board meeting, April the 5th. And if we have a special meeting for the mask mandate and the contract renewal salary increase, we can do that when I decide to. We have the information.
Very good. Thank you, everybody. Entertain a motion.
Mr. President,
to adjourn.
let me
Dr.
just ask something because I never saw it. The boys soccer team, they won their first game, and then they were going to play South Point. Did they lose that?
Yes, they did lose. Uh-huh.
Big time?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I know it was quite, I was,
7-0,
yeah.
I think.
7-0?
I think.
7-0? Okay. But they did well here when we had that first game, and so South Point is a tough team. So,
Well, and not only that, I think that they should go up in classification.
yeah.
Well, and when you can recruit your players.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Or have a German coach. Yeah.
State champs? Oh,
Yep.
wow.
And basketball too, I think.
So I'm sorry, I got off track.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Entertain a motion to adjourn
I move we adjourn.
by Ms. Salchow, second
Second.
by all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.